Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Mercury Sextile or Trine one's natal Neptune. Now, when we're talking about this transit, it can be about communications, learning, assimilating information, siblings, cousins, neighbors, short journeys, and local transportation. This can be in harmony with your dreams, your fantasies, your siblings, cousins, neighbors. These people may be in agreement with what you may fantasize about, what your dreams are. If you have your natal Neptune in Aquarius, it could be something with astrology or computer. Dreams may be connected with astrology, computers, or astronomy, innovation, as some examples. And it's also a good time where it to be more learned in Neptune. Um, Related subjects, whether it can be poetry or dancing, photography, the metaphysical, which includes astrology, as some examples, but also learning about what you may what you may be fantasizing about as well. And this is a time too where you have more of an ability to articulate, I would say, those fantasies, those dreams, to verbalize them at this time. You're talking about harmonious connection or relationship between the transit Mercury and the natal Neptune. And Neptune is also connected with our ideals, and what is ideal for us, whether it's a stable home life or having good income, good values, relationships that are positive, whatever it might be. These are, this is a time where you're more apt to, I would say, articulate these things better, to learn more about them at this time. It's a time to, again, where siblings, cousins, and neighbors may be more in harmony with what your ideals are. And also, Neptune is about inspiration, so this is a good transit where to have communication that you're inspired to do. Mercury is also about analysis, so it's also a time if you're trying to diagnose something, whether it's a vehicle or a computer or some electronic device. It's a time where, or even an astrology chart in some cases, this is a time when you're apt to have more inspiration, more so than usual to do it, but not to a point where it's to the exclusion of everything else. When you have like when you have a transit of Mercury, say if it conjuncts the natal Neptune, that's an intensification. That's more where you can have, it's similar to the sextile and trine to the natal Neptune, but not exactly the same. The Mercury, it's transit Mercury conjunct natal Neptune is more, again, it's more intensified. But the sextile and trine is just a good, good relationship. It's where you have, in this case, a certain amount of inspiration, but an amount where you're not, just doing this to the exclusion of everything else, where you become oblivious to everything else. When you have the conjunction, I think that's what can happen at some point where you're very exceptionally inspired to do things with, as far as your communications go or what have you. But it's also but it's to the point where you're not, you might be letting other things go, I would say. But anyway, Neptune is also connected with the less fortunate, such as the homeless, the impoverished, the oppressed, and the hungry. And it's a time too where you're more apt to, as far as communications, these people, if you're trying to help them, it's more of an opportunity to be able to get, be able to speak to them and do it in a way where you don't come across, as offensive or you're pitying. It comes across in a way where they can do those people, if you have any interaction with them, that they are more receptive to what you are saying, I would say, at this time. And it's also a time to, when you look at this transit, keep in mind that Neptune, anatomically speaking, is connected with the feet, the toes, and the immune and lymphatic system. So it's a time where If you have any of these issues going on that are, I just said that are described that are anatomically connected with Neptune, this is a time where you can articulate them. You may be able to decipher, what's going on, why you're having problems, with them at this time, and being able to, if you have to go, say, to the primary care physician, you're able to more apt to be able to verbalize these issues very easily, and also get some information about them in terms of what you can actually do as far as the problem goes if you have been procrastinating or hesitating on that. It can be a time to remember that. Another thing about Neptune is that it's very nebulous and unclear. So it's a good time, if there's something that's nebulous or unclear in your life, say if the natal Neptune is in the fourth house, it could be some family or your roots, your traditions, your ancestry. This could be a time where you might be able to have better opportunity to clear up any confusion, anything that's unclear about it. You can get more up to get your information regarding these matters at this time. And another thing too is keep in mind that Neptune is also connected with deception and duplicity. So again, it's about being able to more mentally decipher who's who. If there's anybody that that you feel is being fallacious or is not completely honest about something, if there's any kind of thing that you're suspicious of and somebody being deceptive and duplicitous, it's more of an opportunity to uncover that at this time, to be able to figure out who's who. Say in the rogues gallery, who are the it's like the who are the real McCoys, who are the one people, for example, that are real in your life, your real friends, as opposed to those who are not. Say, especially I would say, like if Neptune is in your natal Neptune is in the 11th house of friends, or even in Aquarius, as an example. It can be a time to Neptune is about compassion and forgiveness. So it's a time to, if you want to express your compassion towards somebody, it's easier to write about it, to verbalize it, to articulate it at this time. It's easier to express this, I would say, towards siblings, cousins, and neighbors, and these people may be willing to bring that to you, at this time. If you're in need of something, if you're in need of some kind of sympathy, some kind of compassion, this is a time where you might be more able to receive it from these people, and even from people that may have been prominent in your early education or that in short journeys. And it's also more of a chance to forgive these people, or these people to forgive you if you've committed a wrongdoing toward them. Now the thing about this too, Neptune is also about incarceration and imprisonment. So you're having this transit. If you've had like a situation in your life where you were imprisoned at one time for something, there's more of an opportunity to talk about it or to share this information more with siblings, with cousins or neighbors. And Mercury is also connected with news. So if you're somebody, if there's anybody out there that's waiting on, like a court date, or they're trying to get information about, sentencing in some isolated cases, this could be a time where you may get the news regarding it. It could be positive news since you are talking about auspicious and transit. It could be where sentencing could be lighter than we originally anticipated in some cases, but more often than not, it's just about where you get the general information on this, I would say, without any delays or little delays at this time. Now, another thing too is that Neptune is also associated with our imagination. And since Mercury is about the mind and thinking, it's a good time where you could come up with ideas that are very imaginative. If the natal Neptune is in Sagittarius, it could be something sports related, or something it could be writing. If you could be writing about some, it could be an adventure tale, something with exploration, or something you want to publish. That may be very imaginative. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back, but anyway. Well, another way this transit may manifest, it could be where positive communication and Mercury's communication about your ideals, which is Neptune. Let's say, for example, if the natal Neptune is in Capricorn in the 4th house, it could be about having structure, which is Capricorn, in your home life. The home is the 4th house. Anyway, this could also be a time where it would be, I'd say, auspicious to learn, assimilate information, which is Mercury, about the less fortunate, which is the Neptune, whether it's the homeless, the hungry, the impoverished, the oppressed. For example, if your natal Neptune is in the 2nd house, it could be people that have limited possessions, money, and resources. This could also be a time where siblings, cousins, and neighbors, which is Mercury, may favor your dreams, your fantasies at this time, which is Neptune. Let's say, for example, if the natal Neptune is in Aquarius in the 8th house, it could be doing some, maybe you want to be using the computer, which is Aquarius, for forensics, like a computer forensic position. Maybe that's what your fantasy and dream could be. Now, another thing too is that another way this transit may be expressed is that short journeys, which is Mercury, could be to make your fantasy, which is Neptune, come to fruition. It could be a time where it could be very favorable for that. For example, if your natal Neptune is in Sagittarius, it could be something with professional sports, or something with religion or philosophy or adventure, exploration, publishing, as some examples. Now, another thing too, it may be easier at this time than usual to articulate, which is Mercury, your dreams, your fantasies. If Neptune is in Scorpio, for example, it could be those dreams and fantasies may be connected with psychology or the occult, which includes astrology or forensics, investigation. It could be embalming, as some examples. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.